Hi everybody, Puppy Linux World here. Welcome to today's video. So today's video is going to be showing you how to do a dual boot install of Linux Mint 15 alongside Microsoft Windows 7. Now I'm going to do this in VirtualBox because it makes the recording of it a whole ton easier than doing it on a live machine. However, the principles are exactly the same. So the first thing we need to do is boot our Windows 7 machine up, and we'll press F12 to enter the boot. So we'll press 1 because we want to boot from the hard disk and load our Windows up. So we'll just let Microsoft Windows 7 load up. Now this is just an absolute virgin install of Windows 7. I've not even updated it or service packed it. Doesn't matter because all I want to use it for is to demonstrate how to do a proper dual boot. Now again, even doing it this way, whilst technically on paper all your system, your Windows system and all your files and folders should of course remain in a very, very safe and stable state, you should always back up any files or folders that you want to save just in case disaster strikes. So excuse me. So as you can see, we've got our Microsoft Windows 7 running here in VirtualBox, no problem at all. There we go. And then we've got the Linux Mint DVD installed. So you then need to obviously reboot your computer and select the CD-ROM drive, just checking that we've got 54 gig free, so we've allowed 60 gig on the virtual hard drive. So what I'm going to do now is restart this. As I say, please ensure before you start this process that you've got a backup of all your files and folders and they're nice and safe, either on a USB drive or in the cloud. So here we go. Let's now let it boot. We've put our virtual CD-ROM in. We're going to let it boot to Linux Mint, and we're going to start Linux Mint up on the virtual machine. Now this is going to allow you to do a full install of Linux Mint to the hard drive and at the same time retain your Microsoft Windows. So both will coexist on your hard drive and you will choose which one to boot into when your machine very first starts up. Now there's no need to worry about anything. This is a full automatic operation. Linux Mint will automatically partition your hard drive, it will automatically install the correct bootloader, etc. So you needn't worry about any of that. It's not particularly technical. The guys and girls over at Linux Mint have made this a very simple, easy process for you to do. Now there are of course different ways of doing this, so I'm going to show you the most simple, noob, basic way of doing it in this video because it works and it's successful. However, there are other ways of doing it with the bootloaders, but I'll cover that in later videos as we move into the power user sessions on the video series. So here we are, we're up and we've booted into our Linux Mint live DVD. We've got the icon on the desktop, install Linux Mint, so we're going to do that. Double left click it and let's let the installer start. I don't know how long this is going to take, so I do apologise if this is a bit of a lengthy video, but I want to show you each stage individually and try and explain in simple English exactly what's happening. So now the Linux Mint installer is loaded up. First of all, select your language. Mine is English, so I'm going to select English. You obviously need to select the one that's relevant for yourself and click continue. And make sure that all these criteria are met. You've got enough space, it's plugged into the mains and you're connected to the internet. Click continue. Now this is going to be pretty much a replication of the previous video with a couple of slight differences, so you do need to pay attention and watch this video very carefully. Now this screen, the first option is install Linux Mint alongside Windows 7. That is the option we're going to go for because we want to keep both. Remember, don't worry about these down here. I'll explain all these in a later video. Okay, so ensuring that that option is ticked, click continue. It now says, right, okay, allocate. We can leave it as it is, it's auto allocated, but of course if you want to make the Linux Mint partition bigger or smaller, then you can literally just left click and hold and you can drag the hard drives to how you want them, to how they suit you. But we'll leave them 30 and 39. Okay, so let's actually, I only need 20 gig, so I'm going to make this 20 gig. 20 gig hard drive for Mint and 49 gig for Windows, and click on install now. What that will do is that will now repartition the hard drive. It's now saying write previous changes to disk and continue. At this point it's saying to you, right, you've taken a whole hard disk for Windows, I've now repartitioned it part Windows, part Linux Mint. Do you want me to continue with this operation? Because once I've done it and it's written, it's permanent. So click continue. Yes, we do want it to automatically repartition the hard drive for us. I don't know how long this will take on VirtualBox, but as I say, please bear with me if it's a little bit longer video. But as I say, I do feel it's important that you see each individual stage. Okay, so that's doing that. Again, select your country where you want to, where you currently reside, not where you want to reside. Excuse me. Select your keyboard layout. Mine's English and English UK, so that's fine. Click on the continue button again. Okay, and again this time pop your name in. Again we'll go Steve. It'll automatically populate those fields. Put your password in. As I say, very important to remember your password, because you will need that every time you log in. Click continue. And we'll now wait for this to install. Now, as I say, I'm going to pause the video again here, because now from this point on it's exactly the same as the previous installation video. However, when the install's finished and complete, then we'll restart the video, because the boot sequence will be slightly different to the previous version. Okay, so I'll see you all back here in a sec for the rest of the video. Hi everybody, so welcome back. Okay, so our installation is now complete. So we've now successfully installed Linux Mint alongside Windows 7, and we can boot into either operating system. So I'm going to click on continue testing, because I don't want it to reboot and boot off the CD. So I've clicked on continue testing. As soon as that's finished, we'll reboot the computer. Well, actually what we'll do is we'll click on the menu and shut it down completely. There we go. So let's shut this virtual machine down. And there it goes. Go back into full screen just while it shuts down. And then we'll make the changes in VirtualBox so it doesn't boot from the virtual CD, and then we'll reboot the machine back up, and I'll show you how you can choose whether to boot into Linux Mint or whether to boot into Microsoft Windows. Okay, so there we go. Don't know why this is still not shut down. I really don't want to go and shut it down until it should shut down itself, but I may well have to kill it. We'll see. Alright, well I'll take the plunge. I'll click on power off the machine, because everything should be installed and done. Okay, so let's just click on this virtual machine. Let's go to storage. Yeah, that's now empty, so we can actually remove that CD-ROM. We don't actually need that in there. Click OK. Okay, let's now start the virtual machine back up, and now when you switch your PC back on, you're presented with this menu. So the first option is to boot into Linux Mint Cinnamon. The second option is to boot into Windows 7. So let's boot it into Linux Mint Cinnamon first of all. That's all installed for you automatically, and that's exactly what it will look like on your computer screen when you do your first reboot after installing Linux Mint alongside Windows 7. So then that bootloader is all installed for you automatically. You don't have to do anything or configure anything. It's all done for you automatically. The power of Linux, eh? But as I say, there are other ways of doing it for the more advanced or power user, and we'll cover that in a later series of videos for you. And I'll show you how to do dual booting with the Windows MBR boot manager, but we'll cover that later on, because this is just the basic new user's guide. So we'll select our username, pop in our password at the login screen, and that should then load us into our lovely brand new shiny Linux Mint. And we'll just let that load up. Once that's loaded up, we'll shut it down, reboot it, and then we'll reboot back into Windows 7 just to prove to you that it has worked successfully and there's no majors. As you can see, there's no major issues there. I've completely done it without trouble, and there's absolutely no reason why any user cannot follow this guide and re-emulate it themselves. You know, you've not got to have any specialist knowledge or be a computer nerd or geek or whiz, or, you know, as long as you can boot your computer from the Linux Mint DVD or a thumbnail drive, USB thumb drive, which I'll show you in a later video, then you can get to this stage quite successfully. So we're just waiting for the welcome screen to load up. I'm also going to show you a whole ton of really cool optimization tips and tricks throughout this series, and you will be amazed. I'll show you how to do simple little tweaks that will allow your programs, if you think they load fast now, by the time we've done with this system, it's going to run so quick, blink, and you'll miss it, trust me. This is a really cool operating system. Okay, I'll just close the welcome screen down because we don't need that anyway. Alright, so we can see that that's all installed and good to go. So let's just shut that down and restart it. And then this time we'll now boot up into Microsoft Windows. I'm kind of rushing a bit because I'm very aware I don't want the video to be too long. So again, we're presented with our initial boot menu. Just use your down arrow key to come down to Windows 7 and press your enter key. Now you might, once this starts up, get an initial message saying, hang on, your hard drive size is changed. Do you want me to check all the files on it? Because it's not really as it should be. Now if you get that message, there we go. So I'm going to skip this, but normally I would recommend you do that. Let the disk cataloger within Microsoft Windows just check the disk. If you do choose to skip it, as you can see, it will still load into Microsoft Windows 7 or XP or Vista, absolutely no problem at all. Now please bear in mind, these installation videos are if you're using Microsoft Windows XP, Microsoft Windows Vista or Microsoft Windows 7. If you're using Windows 8 with the UEFI boot protection on, I will do separate videos on them for you, okay? Just so you're all absolutely aware. So there you can see now we've got our Microsoft Windows 7 and it's running absolutely beautiful. You can see now the size of the disk is completely changed. No problem, we can access the disk, we can go into whatever we want. As you can see, everything's all there, nice and safe. So that's how you dual boot your PC with Linux Mint and Microsoft Windows. For those people who really want to try Linux Mint on their computer from an installed version of the software, but are not 100% confident that I really want to get rid of Windows, or maybe there's an application on Windows you cannot live without, that's absolutely fine, such as iTunes. So, you know, in that sort of instance, it may well be better for you to dual boot and be able to choose between the two. So that's how you do a straightforward dual boot install with Microsoft Windows XP, Vista and 7 and Linux Mint 15. Thanks for watching everybody. Please rate, comment, subscribe from the videos up. I'll see you all really soon for another wicked, minty fresh Puppy Linux World video.